Good morning, Math 2. This is Mr. Hewitt. Today is the 8th of April, and I hope you guys are doing well. I am doing okay, thank God, and thanks for asking. All right, before we get started today, I would like you guys to take a moment, pause this video, and get all your tools. So whether that be your pencils, eraser, and scrap paper, go ahead and get those now. And I'd also like you guys to pull up your student-facing document on your computers. All right, so go ahead, get those tools, and pull up your student-facing document from Google Classroom up on your computers. All right, fantastic. So today we are going to be looking at solving systems of linear equations word problems. All right, so I'm going to share my screen with you right now so that we can go through the student-facing document together. All right, so right about now you should be seeing my screen. There you go. All right, so again, this unit's theme or topic is algebraic systems, and today you are going to create a system of linear equations using word problems. Okay, you're going to learn how to do that today. That's our objective. All right, at this time, let's quickly review an example. All right, so here we have the admission fee at a small fair is $1.50 for children and $4 for adults. On a certain day, 2,200 people enter the fair and $5,050 is collected. How many children and how many adults attend? Okay, so your job is to figure out how many children and how many adults attended. Well, where do we start? Well, so let's remember that a linear equation usually has two variables, your x and your y, and usually one of those variables is given to you and you solve for the other one. Here with systems of linear equations, instead of having just one equation, you're going to have two, just like you learned about when we did systems of equations. We solved them using the elimination method and the substitution method, okay? If you need a refresher on how to do that, please go back to those lessons, all right? And watch the YouTube videos. Okay, so where do we start with a problem like this? Well, let's look at the information that we have, okay? So first of all, we know the cost of admission. We know that it costs $1.50 for children, and we know it costs $4 for adults. We also know the amount of people that went to this fair. We know that 2,200 people went to this fair, okay? And the last information we know is how much money was collected from this entire fair, okay? So we know the admission cost, but we also know the total cost. So we know how much money was made at that fair that day, okay? So let's write some of this down. I'm going to stop sharing my screen with you right now, okay? And show you my whiteboard, all right? So there you should be able to see that clearly. All right. So we know a couple things that we just mentioned. But before we write down any numbers, let's start by labeling our variables. So we can call C the number of children. Let's start with A. Let's start with A. Let's call A the number of adults. Okay. And we can say C is the children. Okay. So the first thing I did was to give my variables a name, all right, or a description. So A represents the number of adults and C represents the number of children. Now, if we look at the question, Does it tell us how many adults and how many children there are? Yes, it does. Not individually, but together. It tells us that there were 2,200 children and adults, okay? So, or combined people. So here I'm going to say A, the number of adults, plus C, the number of children, is equal to 2,200, okay? The next thing I'm going to do here is talk about money, all right? So here I just talked about how many people. Now, we also know this problem is talking about money. So let's talk about money for a second. It tells us how much it costs for an adult and how much it costs for a child to go to this fair. And it also tells us how much money was made in all. So I can say something like this. I can say that $4 times the number of adults plus $1.50 times the number of children is equal to $5,050. All right. So one equation, if you look carefully, one equation has to do with how many people, and the other equation has to do with how much money. So this one, people, and this one, money. All right. So notice that these are the two things that this problem is dealing with. It's dealing with people and money. All right. People and money. People and money. All right. People and money. All right. The next thing I'm going to do is answer the question that was asked. The question is, how many adults and how many children are there? So I want to know what's A, and I want to know what's C. How many adults? How many children? So let's draw a line here. Okay. And let's do this at the bottom here. So I am going to, in order for me to solve for adults and children, I need to do that one step at a time. So I need to either find how many adults or how many children, but I have to do it one at a time. So I am going to try and figure out how many adults there are. So in order for me to do that, I need to look at my first equation, and I need to find a way to get this to say A is equal to everything else. In order for me to do that, I will need to get C over to the right. Okay, so let's write that equation again. So we have A plus C is equal to 2,200 people. Number of adults plus number of children is equal to 2,200. All right. But I want this to say A is equal to everything else. So I need to get C over to the right. So I will need to therefore subtract C from both sides. And I'm going to end up with A is equal to 2,200 minus C. Okay. So this is telling me that the number of adults is equal to the total number of people, which is 2,200, minus the number of children. And that should make sense. The amount of adults there are is equal to all the people minus how many children there are. Okay? All right, perfect. Now that I did that, I'm going to substitute this part right here into my second equation for A. All right, let's call this equation 1, and let's call this equation 2. So I just turned equation 1 into this. Now I'm going to take this part, because that's what A is equal to, and I'm going to substitute that into my second equation, equation 2 for A. So let's do that. So I'm going to have, let's do that here. I'm going to have 4 times 2200 minus C plus 150 times C is equal to 5050. Notice that now I only have one variable in here. Can you guess what variable that is? C. I only have C. There's no more A. There's no more A. So that allows me to solve for how many children there are. All right. So let me go ahead and do that. Let me solve for how many children there are. So I'm going to distribute this 4. Okay, so I'm going to get, what's 4 times 2200? That's 8800, right? So 8800. 4 times negative C is negative 4C, right? Plus $1.50C is equal to 5050. All right. Now I'm going to combine my like terms with which are my C's here. I'm going to combine these two C's. So I'm going to have 8800. What's negative 4C plus 1.5C? Well, that's negative 2.5C. All right. You can use your calculator for that, by the way. You put in negative 4 plus 1.50, and that gives you negative 2.5. Okay. All right. And just put the C back. Okay. Is equal to 50, or 5050. All right. Good. We're getting closer. So now I need to find a way to get this 8800 over to the right side. I will have to subtract that from both sides. So I'm going to subtract 8800 from both sides. And so here, they're gone. So on the left side of this equation, I'm left with negative 2.5C. And on the right side, I am left with negative, put this in your calculator, put 5050 minus 8800, you should get negative 3750. Okay, good. Now I need to find a way to get rid of this negative 2.5 so that I can solve for C. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2.5. And so I'm going to have C, because negative 2.5 divided by negative 2.5 is going to give me 1. So I have 1C is equal to, you can put this in your calculator, by the way, negative 3750 divided by negative 2.5 should give you a positive 1500. Okay. Now, what did we say C represents? C is the number of children. So that means there are 1500 children. Now, how many adults are there? Well, because we know that there are 2200 people, to find out how many adults there are, we can simply subtract the number of children from the total number and see what we get. So 2200 minus 1500 should give you 700, which is equal to A, So A, number of adults, is 700, and C, number of children, is 1500. Okay, and that's your answer. Okay, you have answered the question. You have answered the question. All right. So you guys can take notes, write that down, copy that to your scrap paper, whatever you're using to write with. All right. All right. Just a little part that was missing right here. All right. So C is 1500. C is 1500. All right. So to quickly recap, what did we do? Well, first we read the directions, read the question, then we named our variables or described our variables. So because the problem is talking about adults and children and how much money it costs them to get into this place, whatever it is, right? Admission, it means the price to get in, all right? So it's talking about adults and children, right? So we said A is for adults and C is for children, all right? More specifically, A is the number of adults and C is the number of children, all right? And then we wrote an equation based on how many people there are. So because it told us that there were 2,200 people, we wrote the number of adults plus number of children is equal to 2,200, all right? And then because they gave us how much money in all was made at this event, we said, okay, so that means the $4 to get in for an adult times the number of adults plus the $1.50 for each child times the number of children is going to equal the total cost, all right, or total amount that was made that day, all right? And then we went ahead and we tried to find a way to solve for one of these variables at a time. So we decided that we were going to rewrite the first equation so that it says A is equal to everything else. And so we did that here, all right? So we got A is equal to 2,200 minus C, okay? That allowed us to substitute this part of that equation in to equation 2 for A, because we know that A is equal to 2,200 minus C. We're able to take that and plug it in for A, which we did right here. All right, and so now we were able to solve for C because by doing this, we were able to get rid of A. So now our equation is just filled with C's, all right? So there we have one variable to solve for, all right? So we solved for C and we got 1,500. And then we said, well, if we know how many people there are in all, and we know how many children there are, then we can simply subtract the children from the total to find out how many adults there are, and we got 700. And so we say that there are 700 adults and 1,500 children, and that's our final answer. All right. All right, guys, let me share my screen with you one more time. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to share. All right, there. So that's the example we just did. Okay. Now you are going to do the independent practice as usual. All right, there are 3 problems. Okay, there are 3 problems. And then your exit ticket. And you're going to submit your exit ticket. A couple things to take note of here. In number 3, you're going to need to remember that the perimeter of a rectangle is the length of all the sides, or the dimensions of all the sides, okay? Now, there's a formula for that. It's twice the length plus twice the width, all right? So we could say 2L plus 2W, okay, is equal to the perimeter. which in this case in number 3 is 86. So I just helped you out with number 3 right there with one of your equations for number 3. All right, 2L plus 2W is equal to the perimeter, which in this case is 86. Okay, also take note of number 4 here, exit ticket. Notice that it's asking you which pair of equations can be used to determine T, the cost of a taco, and M, the cost of a small glass of milk. So you're going to find those two equations, just like we did with our example. We came up with equation 1 and 2. That's all it's asking you to do here with number 4. Okay, your exit ticket. So the only thing you're going to do is find equations 1 and 2. There's no need to solve it. Just find the equations that will enable you to solve it. All right. All right, guys, that's all I have for you today. See me for live support tomorrow. Okay, Thursday, the 9th. All right, at 10:30. All right. By the way, live support sessions are every Tuesday and Thursday at 10:30. Okay. And the Google Hangouts link is in your Google Classroom. All you have to do is go there and click on the link to get into the live support session. It's that simple. All right, guys, have a great day and God bless. Take care. Bye.